We're in the East End of one of Britain's most famous Cistercian Abbey churches, and we know that it's full of archaeology. So under our feet there may have been floors. I think most of the Tintern ones have been removed at various points in the 18th and 19th centuries, but we can't be sure. We have geophysical surveys, radar surveys, showing us that there, as you would expect, a lot of burials in here. We know of some of them, some very high status people, important people of the Welsh history. Several of the marshals of Chepstow are somewhere in the East End of this church. William Herbert of Raglan and his wife, their children, with records of their tombs. A number of abbots, but the more important the person, the more likely they are to be buried at the East End or as close to the East End of the church as possible. We're in an area roughly where behind you the high altar would have stood, which is gone, in the presbyteral choir end of the church. We know that there would have been steps up and down into different bits of the church. We have walling between the different arches in the arcades. We know of altars. There are a range of structures against the east wall. Having been excavated for a while now, some of them are less convincing than others. They might be early 20th century restoration works. We know that all this stuff is here, and the problem at Tintern is it's right underneath the surface and the scaffold will be straight on top of it. So we're worried about scaffold poles crushing archaeology, really significant archaeology, not just the individuals, but Cistercian archaeology, one of the most famous sites in Europe, but also the suitability of some of this ground for a scaffold pole to rest on. What we don't want to happen is for a scaffold carrying hundreds of tons of planking people to disappear into a void or softer earth, perhaps a grave fill. So what we're doing, we've got a very good contractor, Black Mountain Archaeology, on site, and we've set a brief to effectively evaluate the area phase by phase along with the conservation work. So we've done about a third of the church here. So it's the half of the East End. We've got the Great East Window in front of me now, the presbytery, the choir and the high altar somewhere in here, and the crossing underneath where the belfry would have been, and the south transept, which had chapels in its own aisle. And we can see things on the ground. We can see bits of flooring sitting underneath some of the piers. So you assume we're right on the archaeological area, but we don't actually know. So rather than just sink lots of trenches or test pits where we think the uprights will be, well, that's no good when you suddenly find a skeleton in it or a piece of intact flooring. So what you have to do is move and move and move. The only real way you can understand the archaeology, to be able to plan the scaffold, is to strip the whole area off. The other reason we do this is not to just dig lots of holes, sterilise areas of archaeology and not learn anything about a major monument. This is also a great opportunity to find out a lot more about Tintern Abbey, its layout, its development, and what happened to it in the 18th and 19th centuries. So we can see things that don't seem to be medieval features. We've got things on the floor laid out as walling, which seem to be not fiction, but they've been put there by the Ministry of Works potentially, or their predecessors back at the Office of Woods in the 1900s, where they've effectively maybe dug out the remains of foundations, evoked lines on the floor. We've got things that are marked up. We've got grave slabs on the surface. Well, they weren't there in the medieval period. They were somewhere down there. So we'll be understanding how the site was laid out as a tourist attraction and a monument in the 18th, 19th, 20th centuries. We're already getting a bit of that now. So the plan we have in the guidebook will probably change, not drastically, but lots of the details that we don't entirely understand will become a lot clearer.